Remember, the choices around ancient Israel were basically pagan, pagan, and pagan, right? Take your choice. Your flavor of paganism was really what was the only other options besides living according to the laws of Moses without making it up on your own, or live according to laws of the rabbis, right? I mean, we know that they had really watered down and perverse interpretations of Torah here and there. So it is unthinkable that Jesus would come to rip out his father's Torah from the equation for that reason that I'm describing right there, right? There's just no other way for the people of God to be expected to live righteously and to have definitions of sin according to God's standards if they're going to toss all of the standards that Moses has already laid down for them. That's number one. But number two, God's words are pure, right? Go back and do yourself a favor and read Psalm chapter 119 all over again. It's the longest psalm in the entire book of Psalms, so you can't miss it. And every verse is a kind of statement about God's laws and teachings and instructions and ways that are good, right? They're righteous, they're pure. Why would God give something that's inefficient or deficient or incomplete in its original form, right? It's like, it's impugning God to say that the law that he gave to Moses couldn't cut the job. For the job that it was described to do, it did its job. It was efficient in the job that it was described to do, without trying to force it to do something that wasn't described to do, right? It has its limitations, is the point I'm trying to make. But they were built in God-given limitations, and they were designed that way so that they would take you from step A to step B, right? It was a tool used by God and the Holy Spirit to bring about a desired result in the people of Israel. But in and of itself, it could never bring about a certain result, namely eternal salvation or spiritual righteousness, things like that. But that doesn't mean it was deficient. God gave that which was good to the people of Israel, and it was to be interpreted the way. So, having said all that, let's go back to David Stern. So, if the old religious forms can become fresh, right, they can be refurbished. They can strip away all of their error and be brought back to their original forms, right? So Judaism doesn't have to be thrown out altogether, right? We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Then they can accommodate Yeshua, and we can end up with a Messianic Judaism. David Stern continues, when kainos is rendered new, as in many translations, right, then the implication seems to be that Judaism cannot possibly be a suitable framework for honoring Yeshua the Jewish Messiah. Only the new wineskin of Gentilized Christianity will work. This is the essential interpretation of the allegorical perspective that's offered by mainstream Christianity, evangelical Christianity today, in most of its forms, not certainly all of the forms, right? You're going to find some who are going to say that this is a weak interpretation, and they're going to. That's why I had to offer the kind of the common sense. There are a lot of Christians that are uncomfortable with replacement theology, and rightfully so. Supersessionism, the idea that Israel has been replaced by Christianity, doesn't sit well for many evangelical Christians who love Israel. And so that's why I've been becoming aware and giving credit to some Christian authors out there who are simply saying, let's pitch the centuries-old allegorical explanation that we've been going with for hundreds of years, where we've been teaching that the old is out and the new is in, and Judaism's the old and Christianity is the new. Let's toss that, and let's just go back to kind of a safe, neutral interpretation where basically Jesus is saying, look, if you take all four elements, the wedding, that's first element, the wine, the patch and the clothing, that's the second element, the wineskin, that's the third element, and the new wine and the old wine, that's the fourth element, right? If we use Luke's rendering, it's only three elements if you look at Matthew and Mark, but it's four if you look at Luke. If we take all of them and put them on the table and analyze their similarities, what we end up is a basic structure that reveals that common sense is the main focus of Yeshua's statement. So we start this whole thing off with the wedding feast, right? And it's an observation from people around them saying, hey, why are your disciples not fasting? Right? Blah, blah, blah. everybody fasts at weddings, but then Yeshua says, wait a minute, duh. I'm the Messiah. I'm the bridegroom. Why would you want to fast when I'm here, right? Rejoice. Don't fast. It's just common sense. Hey, right? You get it?